Okay, this section says Goal 3, analyzing and improving a bad experiment. Read the information below regarding a previous detergent trial at P&G, then answer the questions below. Dr. Titleott experiment flop. There are many reasons why Dr. Titleott's boss doesn't really trust her and her experimental design skills. Dr. Titleott already tried her new formula, called New Magic Tide, but her experiment was a flop, and her boss was not impressed. Her experiment was all wrong. Take a look at the terrible experiment below, then answer questions 8 and 9 to help out Dr. Titleott to make his experiment better. Dr. Titleott's procedures. Step 1. Gather 3 separate brands of detergent, Gain, Tide Original, and the new Tide Magic detergent. That's Dr. Titleott's creation. Step 2. Squeeze some ketchup on 3 items of clothing, a pair of jeans, a cotton t-shirt, and a tie. Step 3. Place each of the pairs of clothing in a large container of water. Step 4. Let the clothing sit in the water for 24 hours. Step 5. Remove each of the clothing items. Observe the stains. Use the scale below to help determine the effectiveness of each detergent. 1 equals original ketchup stain. The stain was not removed at all. A 2 equals stain was slightly removed. A 3 equals stain is somewhat removed. A 4 equals stain is removed but with some residue. A 5 equals stain is completely removed. It looks like this rating scale is what the numbers are referring to. Step 6 says, here's the data found by Dr. Titleott from her experiment. Well, let's go ahead and check it out. It says right along the top, detergent type. Gain, Tide Original, New Magic Tide. The next section says clothing used. Jeans, tie, t-shirt. Then it says average stain removal rating. Gain has a 2, Tide Original has a 3.5, and New Magic Tide has a 5. Okay. This question says, when Dr. Titleott presented her findings to her boss wasn't very happy. In fact, he was furious. Her boss told her that the experiment was not reproducible, and that her final data was not accurate or fair. Do you agree that Dr. Titleott's experiment was not fair and reproducible? Why or why not? Well, let's take a look at this term reproducible. Reproducible means that anyone can complete this exact same experiment and get similar results. And also remember, good experiments only test one variable. This means only one part of the experiment is changed or tested. That, of course, is the independent variable. So ideally, the only part of this experiment that should all be different is the 3 types of detergent. Now let's look and see maybe for a second exactly what he did change, and if there was anything else, in fact, that he forgot to keep the same. Let's look at a few of these steps. Step 1 says to use 3 separate brands of detergent, and that's good. That's our independent variable, so we want that to be different. What about step 2? It says squeeze some ketchup. Interesting. It doesn't actually say how much ketchup. I will probably say that's an issue. Then it says 3 items of clothing, a pair of jeans, t-shirt, and a tie. I don't know about you, but I have a feeling that ketchup might stick to each of these a bit differently, especially if you're using different amounts of ketchup. Another thing that sticks out to me, it says place each of the pairs of clothing in a large container of water. I wonder if this is the same container of water, or if you put maybe a different amount of water with each of the detergents and each of the clothing items. Interesting. I would say this experiment definitely needs some work. I would maybe right here list all of those things that he does not keep the same, except for the 3 types of detergent. Let's take a look at number 9 now. It says, what recommendations do you have to help make Dr. Titleot's project experiment better and reproducible? List 2 recommendations. Well, I would definitely list 2 things that you can do to make our experiment more fair by making sure that the only thing that's changed is this up here, the type of detergent. Everything else should stay the same. Things like the type of clothing you put the stain on. Okay? You could probably write it better than that and maybe explain it better. You also might want to list something about how much detergent to use. I'm going to abbreviate that. And how much stain to use. By stain, I mean the ketchup. I never did say how much to put on. It just said put some ketchup on each clothing item. I think this should be a start. Go ahead and fix your answers.